Hey, what's going on? This is Jay Farrell. You listening to the Hard NOC Life podcast. What up, though?
Well, it's the NOC in full color. You see me? The Hard NOC Life. Comics, movies, and TV. Yeah.
It's another Hard NOC Life. I'm Keith.
Hi, I'm Dominic.
How's it going, Dominic?
It's okay. Am I far away from my mic?
No, you are perfectly audible.
Usually the lighting is really bad in my room, but right now I have this sort of Star Trek lens flare thing going on that I like. So
yeah, it's very JJ Abrams.
If part of this ends up on video, I'm uncharacteristically fine with it. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm in a bit of a frenzy because I'm all caught up on The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think a few weeks ago when we were talking, I was like, I'm very far behind in all the pop culture things, and so I binged the first couple weeks of Last of Us, and now I'm all caught up, and then I'm so caught up that I watched last night's episode and had to write about it this morning.
Yeah,
So
I saw that.
I posted about the show, and before we get any further, spoilers for The Last of Us here at the top of the podcast. I know you're not watching the show, but you are familiar with the game.
Yeah, I mean, I played a bunch of the game. I don't really watch the show, but I know enough that from the games that Ellie singing songs from the past is a big emotional touchstone in the game. And it's in the show, and generally they were like 80s songs, like Aha's Take on Me or something.
Right.
And it's
Right,
very
right.
sweet. We remember the past. Oh my gosh. But they went a different way with this episode.
Well,
Or
not really. So
recently.
yeah, let's break it down. So yeah, I am not a game player. I'm a show watcher. I'm the opposite of you. I watch the show, don't play the game.
Yeah. Which is fine.
And then
Many people do
which
that.
is fine. Which is fine. And I feel like those people who watch Game of Thrones and never read the books that were shocked by the Red Wedding and stuff.
Mm.
While people who read the books were watching their partners and not the screen. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, it is kind of like that for those of us who play the game. We're
right. Yeah,
the-
what happens in episode 2 of this season to Joel? I had no idea. I did not see that coming.
Yeah. And my perspective is I don't want to see that part again. That's why I don't watch the show.
Yeah, sure. I get
so
that.
it's just different perspectives of where you latched on to the story.
Yeah. So one thing that was in the game, which came out, this season is a remake of The Last of Us Part 2, which is the second game, the sequel in the franchise. There's only been 2 games, right?
Yeah, there was
DLC or something.
There was a smaller episode. I won't go down that rabbit hole. There's been 2-ish games, yes.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm not a gamer, is that modern gaming is just beyond my comprehension.
The numbering gets really bad quickly.
And just the number of downloadable content that you need to continue expanding and whatnot. I'm just I'm used to Tetris at this point. Anyway, there's no DLC for Tetris, is there? Maybe there is. I don't know.
I said I wasn't going to go down that rabbit hole, and I'm not. There is DLC for Tetris. So no one jump on me though. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Okay.
different shaped bricks or whatever. Anyway, okay, sorry. Let's bring it back. The one thing I was aware about the game is that as a Pearl Jam aficionado, there is a song from the late era Pearl Jam records that factors heavily into Last of Us Part 2. And it's a song off their 2013 album Lightning Bolt called Future Days. And it's prominent in the game because I'm assuming Joel teaches Ellie that song. And it's a song the two characters bond over, so that after Joel dies, as I said, spoilers for the game and the show, Ellie has an emotional connection to that song. And there's a scene in which she sings that song and remembers Joel. And I'm sure there's going to be more stuff later in this season around Future Days.
Mm-hmm.
So just before we get into the TV show, tell me about how that song factors in the game without spoiling.
I don't freaking remember. But
Do you remember that song in the game?
I remember her doing the Aha song, which I think Michael mentioned, and another 80s song in the game. All I remember is that vibe of those scenes. I don't remember specifically that song or not. I will mention quickly, this is a kind of vibe they've done before in Last of Us Season 1. Remember that Linda Ronstadt song
Mhm.
was big for hot minute because it was used so powerfully at the end of the one episode with the gay couple,
But
right?
which they expanded on in the show, which was not in the game.
They totally expanded on.
Right.
Yes, that it was just a well-chosen Linda Ronstadt song for the show. I don't think it was in the game at all.
Yeah. Or even the couple wasn't in the game. Like their whole storyline was an
They
addition.
no, they are, but they
But you
aren't.
don't see their whole life story
Right.
like you do in
That's
that
that's
episode.
the
Right.
beauty of an adaptation. You
Yeah,
get into
absolutely.
those characters' story. You're not paying attention that much attention to them in the game.
So I mean, the main question, I've been trying to get an answer to this, and no one's been giving me an answer. All you gamers out there who've played this, and no one's told me in The Last of Us, because you don't even remember the song because, like, you know, again, I'm the only one who gives a shit because this is like 2013 era Pearl Jam. People
Yeah,
stopped caring about Pearl Jam after 1993. So it's like
you're
20
right.
years hence since Pearl Jam was relevant. So I understand why people are like, why are you making a big
You're
deal?
right. You are guarding the secret Pearl Jam timeline in the period that fewer people care about Pearl Jam, which is a noble cause, I guess.
I will be the only one.
That's okay. That's okay. And I believe Mike addressed this issue, or he might have commented on your piece already. But go
Well,
on,
he
go
talked.
on.
So yeah, he talks about the time skip. So anyway, this song. What I'm trying to find out is in universe.
Hmm.
Is it a Pearl Jam song, or is it like here's a song I wrote? You know, Joel wrote, and he teaches Ellie.
I honestly do not freaking remember.
Right, because it had no impact on you. Apparently it's a big like fans remember future days from Last of Us 2 because
Okay.
what I
Yeah.
remember the only reason I know is that in the 2020 Game Awards that was held during the pandemic, ironically,
Hmm.
Eddie performed it live from
Yeah.
he beamed it into the whatever
Yeah.
however we did things back in 2020.
Nice move, Eddie. No, that's
Yeah.
that's that's classy.
And so I
Uh,
was like, okay, Future Days. Oh, that song's a big deal in this game. The reason I bring all of this up
yeah. What is that
is
reason?
that in the game,
I'm still trying to figure it out.
well,
Go
in the game, the pandemic or not the pandemic, the outbreak happens in 2013,
ahead.
right? The fictional outbreak, the
Right,
real
right,
outbreak happened in 2020.
right, right.
But in the game, 2013, the first game came out in 2013, and that's the year they used as the beginning of, the zombie apocalypse. In the show, however, for narrative reasons that, as you said, Mike expanded upon in the comment to the post I wrote this morning,
Yeah.
they shifted the timeline so that the I keep calling it the pandemic. I guess it's a pandemic. I mean,
Easily confused. That's why Last of Us is so popular. You
right.
don't know whether you're talking about real life or
The
a fake
mushrooms
TV show.
attacked in 2003
Yes, the
in the
mushroom
show,
attack. Yeah.
which is like the reasoning that Mike explains in my on my post. He says that it's because the creators wanted to set the current like batch of episodes they were doing in 2023 in the present to make it more relevant to COVID, I guess. But I don't know how that's because it's not like we've been living with COVID for 20 years and the years
Well,
past
but
COVID have been pretty like the fucking same. It's not like people have changed the way they live because of COVID, unfortunately. Like people are now even more reckless than they
yeah,
were pre-COVID. So, but yeah, this is there's a big shift in the timeline in the show
sure.
versus the game.
Yeah. Because it was in development for a long time. And I'm still trying to zero in on your like timeline
So, okay,
obsession here.
if the pandemic started in 2003, if the mushrooms attacked in 2003,
Yeah.
the Pearl Jam record that was out at that time was Riot Act.
Yeah.
Future
Okay.
Days is not on Riot Act. Future Days is on Lightning Bolt, which comes out 10 years later.
Okay.
So in last night's episode, all that said, I thought, well, they're just not going to do Future for whatever reason. This song that's so important to all the fans of The Last of Us, they're just going to play it like non-diegetically. It'll be like the theme of the show, but it won't be in universe.
Okay.
And so on last night's episode, Ellie picks up a guitar and starts playing Future Days.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
that's when like the space-time continuum broke.
Oh, that's when the space-time continuum
Yeah.
broke.
I didn't know they were going to deal with time travel on The Last of Us, is what I'm saying.
All right, let me see if I can
We're
articulate.
spending way more time on this than
I'm
I
trying to
anticipated.
articulate this argument as I think I'm hearing it, and I believe, Keith, what you're saying is that The Last of Us could not exist because the Pearl Jam song did not exist at the time of the mushroom attack. Is that your argument?
Well, yeah, I'm saying that Ellie knowing future days cannot possibly happen because that
Dude,
song had not been written yet. If the premise is they're singing it because you know Joel loved Pearl Jam and they're in Seattle and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So, dude, it's okay. Oh my God, I'm trying to keep it together. Do you know how long it takes to develop a show? Like, like
it's totally cool. Like,
eras change.
but how
Time
can you know a
passes
song that had not been written at the time?
because time is flexible in genre pieces, as we all know from watching super movies where Spider-Man has been 23 for 40 years. Can we? This isn't like nerd 101, dude. The
Okay.
time is flexible. It does not. Iron Man's been 42 for 60 years.
I mean, for what it's worth, I also run into this in works of fiction when trying to figure out who has been president when.
Oh,
You
that
know what
yeah,
I mean? Because
no,
like
no,
that,
that
like
is
there fictional
that's a tricky one. Yeah,
shows will acknowledge like the existence of Kennedy and
yeah,
Reagan, and it's but then there's like some fictional president that's
yeah.
like the current president, and you're like, wait, so was Obama president? Was
Right,
Trump president? Like the MC, like when Harrison Ford became president, and I guess
right.
before him was the Secret Invasion president guy, the what's his face from I forget
Oh,
his name.
Osborne? No, who's
No,
but
he
I don't think they even say
the
who
guy from
the
my best
person.
friend's wedding. The shit, what's his name? Whatever, doesn't matter.
I've lost that thread. But again, time is elastic, and
Like
you
Obama was Obama never president in the MCU? I guess no, he was though because his press secretary is in like that news montage at the
oh
end
yeah,
of
no,
Avengers.
Obama's seen in one of the MCU movies, I'm sure.
So Obama was the last real world president, and then after him was like the
Yeah,
guy from Agents of
yeah,
Shield.
and
And
yeah,
then
so he somewhat time locates it. And okay, I mock, but there is, there's a creative choice that they are making here. There's a choice we're making. They wanted to have a certain vibe and probably speak to an elastic time that was non-specific, and they probably got it to exactly the period they wanted, where it's just modernized enough that was recent, near the pandemic, yet still had the spirit of what the game was trying to say back when it first came out in early 2000s, and all they tripped up on was the date of the Pearl Jam song.
well,
And they're
I'm just
probably
like
thinking no one will know because follows Pearl Jam to that
late
degree.
era Pearl Jam. We
Late
don't know
era Pearl
less.
Jam, except Keith.
Keith Chow of the Nerds of Color. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, they could have avoided all of this by just setting the beginning of the show with in line with the game. Like the game, the outbreak happens in September 2013.
But that's
Why
what
couldn't the outbreak happen in September 2013? And
but that's
they
what
they go back 10 years in the show for no reason.
that's what I'm saying. There's a creative choice there. They needed to bring it up to modern times. There's a very good example. Like this happens whenever there's a long development process. If you set it in the year that comes out, you know what looks really wrong is cell phones.
But
You can't
well,
set
hold on.
things
Okay,
in the year they came out.
now we're
The,
actually going to have a real debate because
you
if you make the end of the time, if you make time stop at 2003,
hmm
you're actually setting yourself up for more anachronisms because there's like 20 years of things that you could accidentally get wrong, right?
hmm
Because in the game, the outbreak happens the year the game comes out. So like
Sure.
because it takes place in the near future, time has stopped. You don't have to predict what the world's going to look like 10 years, 20 years from now because it's all like overgrown buildings and like
Okay. Yeah.
zombie mushroom people. You know
So
what I
it's
mean? Like
right.
you don't have to worry about cell phones. They all have like
Okay.
shotguns and walkie-talkies. But anyway,
So
my
they could have stopped time at 2003.
or they could have stopped time in 2023 or whatever. Like
Yep.
then the Pearl Jam stuff fits. My point is that because they went back in time to end the world, all the stuff that came out post 2003 doesn't make sense for them to have any knowledge of. I mean, and the thing is like they have like fictional movies that they reference in the show And again, maybe it's not maybe it's not a Pearl Jam song in universe,
Yeah, maybe it's
which is
not.
fine. It's just like a song that exists, and
Yeah.
I'm being a bitch about it because I just thought it'd be funny post to write this morning, and
Well,
that's what I did.
you're protective of the Pearl Jam timeline.
Yeah,
I get
I
it.
am the Loki of Pearl Jam.
Few as few people do, but
There's three of us out there.
I say like what their creative choice was like what if we done a time accurate song, but we just want this song because it's better
Hmm.
because it sounds cooler for this moment. Again,
Yeah.
that's a creative choice.
No,
And
again, I was actually just trying to take the piss out of the whole thing because the ultimate point I was making is that like being nerds, we do kind of hold sacred timelines and canon
yeah,
and continuity like too precious. You know what I mean? And
yes,
like it's actually a perfect example of the show I wanted to talk about this week. Not, I didn't even want to talk about the last of it. My own
it got
intention
your
was to
goat clearly in some way. I
my
believe
entire
it. Eddie
intention
is
was to
fine with it.
cover
Yes.
episodes 7 through 9 of Andor because that was some of the best television I've seen like ever. And I know I say that every week when it comes to Andor, but this especially these 3 episodes were like mind blowing.
Yeah.
But some of the discourse online has been about, well, how does it fit in Star Wars continuity? Because
Oh,
like
okay.
K2SO, that's not how they met in the comics, and in Star Wars Rebels, Mon Mothma gives a speech elsewhere, and blah blah blah, and she has
Right,
the bowl
right,
haircut and all that stuff.
right. Okay, yeah, I haven't
Trying to,
followed that, but I gather it's speaking to a conflict between Star Wars Rebels and what's happening in Andor right now, right? Those
yeah,
there are things in conflict that yeah, because Star Wars Rebels was for kids and this one isn't,
right.
right?
Well, and the thing, and again, it's like the whole continuity piece where like and I actually make this point in The Last of Us. Like I said, most of it was tongue in cheek. I'm not this passionate
Mm.
about like the 12th track on their, 2013 studio album. A little passionate, not that passionate is what I'm
You're
saying.
you're passionate. It's fine. You don't have to
It's
be.
a great song.
It's a
Anyway,
great song. You don't have to feel defensive
I just
about it.
wanted to make sense and you anyway. The but I
Make
we
it make
we
sense.
we hold like continuity, like we're obsessed with continuity as comic book nerds, right? It's always like,
Yeah, yeah,
how does
totally.
this fit with that? And the whole like term retconning comes out of like comic book culture because honestly, the only people who give a shit about continuity are the fans because the writers have never give a shit about continuity.
Oh,
That's why we've needed crises and what's the thing in Marvel Secret Wars to make continuity make sense.
yeah. Yeah, the continuity became uh, the subject of the universe ending story. I don't. I didn't follow. Like, did K2SO meet in some other way?
So
Because the
apparently there was a comic book that came out as a tie-in to Rogue One that was like, Cassian and you know goes on this mission and encounters a security droid and then reprograms him,
hmm.
and that's how they became friends.
Okay, cool. But that
Not
happened.
that K2SO tried to kill him on Gorman and he like stole his parts, and I mean again it's so minor it doesn't matter, but like there are Star Wars nerds who are like trying to make it make sense and are upset that it doesn't
Right.
because I
No.
mean and partly I blame Lucasfilm and Disney because when they took over in 2015, they made this whole pronouncement that it all connects, right? Like across every
Uh,
platform, every medium, comics, books, cartoons, video games,
hmm.
everything is connected into the same content. And I've always actually been uh, wary of that approach, and I actually am wary about it for James Gunn in the DCU because he's said the
Hmm.
same thing. Every show, every cartoon, every book, every video game will be the same universe. Even then then he makes all these things that don't. Anyway, um,
Yeah. Well.
I think you set yourself up for problems when you try to like make everything connected. Marvel's had this issue for the last 20 years too.
Yeah, Gem and Chan is three different people. Um, but also who cares? Look, I'm not
Right, right. Well,
trying
that's
to
the magic 2 words is who
I
cares.
am not trying to gaslight anybody, but I will say this. If that's your if that's your problem with Andor, look, Andor is not already not for the traditional Star Wars audience on so many levels. I would speaking to these last three episodes, I have this checklist in my head. Does this have any of the things that we liked of original Star Wars? And it has almost none of those things. But it has a whole bunch of other things, which you know,
When you say original
there's
Star
a
Wars,
different palette.
you mean like the original trilogy?
I mean, like the nine core movies, or even the first six movies, whatever or even, or even the original trilogy, which established the vocabulary for all of Star Wars. Okay, Andor doesn't have those thrills, doesn't have
Right.
big space battles, doesn't have corny laser sword fights, but it has all these other things. So I'm just saying, trying to make it fit into trying to make that peg fit into the whole of whatever you think Star Wars is ultimately futile in so many ways. And so, yeah, but TLDR, I super don't care whether there's inconsistency on
Yeah.
how we met the battle droid. Super don't care at all.
But you know,
There,
I think
there can be
what you
five different versions of that story, and I'd be happy.
well, what you said is interesting too, because I think like I don't necessarily disagree with what you said, but I'll modify the point in the sense that I think Andor actually delivers on what the nine core Star Wars movies are trying to do.
Yeah,
And what I
yes.
mean by that is
Yes.
like, it echoes the kind of like, gritty griminess of the original trilogy. Because one of the things that like sets the original trilogy apart from both the prequels and the sequels, I feel like, is that the fact that it was made in the 70s and 80s, so things felt more tactile.
Hmm.
Like the prequels, the main criticism, no matter what generation you're born in, I think of the prequels is they're too sterile because everything is
Sure,
filmed on a blue screen
sure,
and the actors are not interacting with anything. You know
sure.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So Andor is filmed in like the real world, so you have that like tactileness. But also like another kind of like criticism our generation had about the prequels is like the opening crawl of Phantom Menace, like where they talk about, trade routes and taxations and like it's
Yeah.
all politics in the Senate. But and it's like that's boring. That's not Star Wars. But this show makes those kind of bureaucratic government governing, decisions thrilling.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. They were trying to do a story of political intrigue in Phantom Menace, and they just didn't do it as well because they didn't have Tony Gilroy or someone really good
Right.
writing it. This is, yeah. So I don't want to. Yeah, I'll also modify to say yes. The shout outs to original Star Wars are there, but they're just heavily processed and you know
Better
deconstructed, if
executed.
you will. Yeah, we should talk about all of them. Like, well, I'd start with like episode 7. I really liked how they got to this idea of the Force in a way that they never really explored the Force before. There's a sort of mystic healer, and they talk about it. They talk about destiny. They talk about presence and interconnectedness, which, us, students of East Asian philosophy always knew that the Force was basically the Tao, or like a very like sort of East Asian cosmology of things. And that's why it seemed exotic and weird. But but yeah, no, we're all connected by a life force. Duh. Chi, like duh. Um, and uh, and so they got to the la 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 part of Star Wars without being freaking cheesy about it. Because again, one of those things in episode 8, The Last Jedi, that I thought Rian Johnson did really badly. I don't know where this is on the list of things that people complain about The Last Jedi. It's in the middle of the list. But the way they talk about the Force is really annoying. It's sort of joked down to, oh, it's a thing that makes people lift things, and Luke is just like, oh, you're wrong. But he doesn't really say what it is, because I think Rian Johnson just didn't care at that. But anyway, the point is, the Force, episode 7, really great explanation of the Force. Hints that Andor has a Force sensitive destiny,
I've seen that.
like the other major heroes in Star Wars, but doesn't hit you over the head with it, just hints at it.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that interpretation. I reject it because I mean, I kind of think I can see where they're going with that. But to your point earlier about like it kind of separates itself from like the saga in
Mm.
that it kind of downplays the mysticism stuff,
Mm.
like it's because I think what people want that to be true. They want Cassian to be like, I've seen like I think it was a headline on some website about like, is Cassian the true chosen one, because it's
Yeah.
all that, like I hate that stuff. I hate that it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, just let it, like he's skeptical of it,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? He's got that very Han Solo, like I've never seen anything, and you know what I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
like I like that realistic aspect of him, and then eventually we'll see he meets up with like Donnie Yen eventually, who's also another force sensitive non-Jedi in Rogue
Right.
One.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I hope so. Does Donnie Yen show up and is
I don't think
Donnie
so,
Yen gonna
because they
show up in
don't
this
meet
Andor?
until I don't know. There's 3 more
Right. By
episodes. Who
that
knows?
cat anyway. But yeah, anyway, it would be great. But yeah, that's a great example of Donnie Yen. The
Yeah,
character is in tune with Force things, not necessarily a Jedi. I love
right,
that.
right. I mean, because not to get all like, caught
Uh,
up in timelines again, but one of the things that I have always found about the Star Wars timeline not making a lot of sense is how that, because with the first Star Wars, before the prequels, when we didn't know anything about life before Episode 4,
right.
you know, you felt like the Empire's been around forever and everyone's been under the thumb, and you know, but really the Empire was like been around for like maybe 20 years,
Mm.
so like the Jedi were powerful, like in our timeline the Jedis were around in 2000, and
Right.
like everyone's
A,
forgotten about them.
a long time ago, as it were.
Well, but that's what
The
I mean. They're
Jedi.
like
Yeah.
in the last 20 years, have you forgotten everything that happened in the year 2000? You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like,
Oh, okay.
you know what I'm saying? Like, no one knows who the Jedi are anymore. They were like fucking everywhere 20 years ago, and now like there's like they're scared, unless they've been, the other explanation is that the Empire was very good at like propaganda, and like they were all scam artists and everything like that. That then maybe
Well,
they're
yeah.
all like woo woo kind of like mystics who really were, bad people. I guess
Uh,
that could be why people like forgot the Force exists in 20 years,
Dude, do you remember the movie that came out 20 years ago? Okay, sorry, you remember every Pearl Jam song from the beginning of Pearl Jam, but I'm saying, like, do you remember every big thing that happened in 2008? Jesus Christ. What do you say? Yes, of course they
Like,
erased the Jedi.
do the people in a galaxy far, far away not have nostalgia for like 20 years ago?
They don't have our geek problem, they're creating our geek problem. But they also have their we see the Empire's media machine in the show, and they are systematically writing the story and making us forget the thing that happened 10 years ago. So yes, I completely
That's
believe
true. No, good point.
in a long time ago, galaxies far away, people also had short attention span
Yeah, you're
for
right.
whatever reason. And the Jedi, oh yeah, that was like fidget spinners, like
Yeah, yeah.
that was a thing.
Make the galaxy great again is for real
Yeah,
in
yeah,
in
yeah.
Star Wars. You're right. You're
Whatever
right.
we were talking about 8 years ago, God, that was just like so 8 years ago. Jedi, I don't know.
Yeah,
That
for
was a
no, you're
thing, right?
great point. Great point. There are people who 10 years ago would have like lost their shit if a president was gifted a private jet from a foreign government. And
Yeah,
now they're just like, hey, whatever. You know what I mean? So
absolutely
yeah.
true. We've modified our standards to be like, oh yeah, that's just another
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
complete atrocity.
Space
Um,
Fox News is a problem. I get it. You're
right,
totally.
so that's how I address the problem of people remembering the Jedi or not.
Well, one thing that the galaxy far, far away does have nostalgia for is Victor Hugo novels,
Yes.
because they love them. They love them some French Revolutionary cosplay, man.
Oh my gosh, the Les Mis fan in me, episode 8. Wow.
So we
Wow.
joked about it last week when Cinta died. You even sang a brief snippet of a Eponine song.
Yeah.
But boy, they Tony Gilroy heard you last week, and he went back in time and rewrote episode 8 to be
That
the entire Les Mis musical,
that's exactly what he did. He did read
complete with singing at the barricade.
Yep, he heard our podcast, invented a time machine, went back and did reshoots, so it'd be more Les Mis even than before. Yeah, they sing a song. Um
At the barricade, no less.
at the barricade, very much they're all in a closed space, like a theater set, very much like the barricade set of Les Mis. There's a tragic battle, people are dying left and right. And the tagline of the episode, the title is "Who Are You?" which of course echoes one of one of the big songs in Les
The
Mis.
most iconic, yeah,
Who
one
am
of the most
I?
iconic.
Who am I? Sarah
Well, and
Karn.
and then the two, I mean, like mirror characters throughout the show, not just this season, in Cassian Andor and Cyril Karn, are very much Valjean and Javert,
Right, right. Yeah, they are locked
even
in
to how they're
that
like
old.
arranged in Gorman, because Cyril is, kind of like a spy for the Imperials inside the Revolution, who
Yes,
gets kind of disillusioned.
yes.
Cassian is like an unwilling participant in the revolution. He's just a thief from trying to steal a loaf of bread back on Ferrex,
Yeah,
and is
yeah, yeah.
now
Yeah.
pursued by Javert, or pursued
Now
by Karn,
caught up in all this shit. Yeah.
and he just gets caught up in Gorman,
Yeah.
you know. And they have their big encounter where
Yeah.
Javert, and I know for whatever we're skipping around a lot, but we're just tying the Les Mis stuff. Javert meets Valjean in the little bistro, and they have
Hmm.
their fight.
Yeah.
The biggest difference between Les Mis and this is that Valjean has no idea who Javert is, which is heartbreaking in a lot of ways.
Right. No, that's a very deep moment. I mean, yeah, because Karn clearly doesn't really know who he is either. That's why that moment is so piercing. And then he gets shot, and that's fine because he's totally in the wrong. I mean, again, from the uh, we'll get back to the Les Mis part, but the arc of Cyril Karn's character is crazy in that episode because we see where this all leads. He starts as this like officious little guy. He's just trying to make it big in the company, and his whole dream is to catch some accounting errors so he can be like the, you know, king of accounting errors in the empire. And then he realizes that, oh, this has been going towards a genocide.
Yeah.
It's not just like fixing standards. And then he's like, oh, maybe, whoops. Oh, maybe I didn't mean to do that. That's fucking very powerful and relevant.
Oh, and the thing too is that, like, on the surface you could say he gets like a redemption arc or whatever, but he still doesn't, because like the way, I mean, Dedra Miro is also not,
Hmm.
uh she's a, I wouldn't even say she's good or bad. She's a, like we've talked about throughout all of our conversations about Andor, the banality of evil, right? Like,
Yeah.
she's just another bureaucrat who's following orders, who understands this is not what I wanted to do either, but she's too far gone.
Mm. Yeah.
They have their confrontation, which is very violent,
Yeah.
very scary. So, like, what I love about all of the characters in this show is that they're all complex. There's not an easy, like, he's all good, she's all bad. It's everyone is good and bad in various ways.
Oh, yeah. No, it's as complicated as life. It is not as simple as the one with the blue laser sword is good.
Right, right. Which I think sets it apart from the rest of Star Wars, right? Like, it's very clear who the good
Yeah,
guys. I mean, like, what I've loved even with Rogue One is they show the kind of like everydayness of being in the Empire,
yeah,
where you have like, and it makes you reflect as someone who lives within its own empire, and like how we go
yeah,
about our days, you know, y-
yeah,
living in America. And it's the same thing. Like, you do turn a blind eye to atrocities happening because you need to get your coffee, and you need to
yes,
go to work, and
yes,
you need to
yeah,
watch TV.
yeah, and yeah, and they do get into the layers of that, I think, in the ninth episode because Bail Organa just going, we do what we can.
Mhm.
We have different stakes now. I will say quickly, just back to traditional Star Wars things. Yeah, so like episode 8 has a lot of pew pew, but it's not the kind you want.
Right.
So it's, again, a shout out to the traditional thing that happens in Star Wars, but very deconstructed to be like, oh, this is fucking horrible.
Yeah.
It's
I
fuck-
mean, and it's something that's been referenced in other Star Wars. It goes back to the continuity, conversation we had a few
hmm
minutes ago about, like, Star Wars Rebels mentions the Gorman massacre, and
hmm
the comics and various
hmm
novels talk about the Gorman massacre as the thing that really launches the Rebel Alliance, and to kind of see how it plays out, that it was this false flag, that the Empire kind of
Yeah.
like, again, going back to like the moral, the muddiness, the muddy morality of all the characters. Luthen wanted the same thing Deidre wanted. He
Yep.
wanted
He
this protest to go sideways, and because Cassian even confronts him in the previous episode where he says they're not ready.
yeah.
They're gonna like go down in flames, and he'll say, but it'll burn brightly.
Yeah, I think
It-
Luthen is particularly complex fuck
yeah.
as a character. He's very interesting, but he's a particularly kind of a complicated fuck. Because, you know, in revolutionary moments, there is always, let's say, there's a white guy with wild eyes who is going to lead the charge and knows how to burn it all down. He's a character in revolutionary moments. I'm going to say he shouldn't be the character. Do you know
Well,
what I'm
and
saying?
he's not, because he's
You
not
know
the
what I'm saying?
because those
He's part of it.
types
Yeah.
those types never build back what they burn down. And that's kind of the problem with revolutions too, is that like it's one thing to burn it all down, but if you have nothing to build
Yeah.
back up with,
Yeah.
you just it's not to reference another Pearl Jam song, but
Why not?
new song it's a new song called Wreckage, where it's like it's if you've destroyed everything, but you're the king of like everything's been destroyed, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a good song.
Yeah, Wreckage is a great song.
Dope. Well, sorry, well, yeah, we were circling around. But yeah, so there's Massacre and yes, and the Luthen type is like, yes, that's what we needed to
Yeah, he
to,
wanted the
to
massacre to happen
spark
too.
the
Yeah.
revolution. I was like, yeah, tell that to the people in Gore, like, oh, great.
Well,
Um,
and then that leads to episode 9, as you said, where
yeah,
Mon Mothma gives like a powerful, like probably the most powerful speech a politician has given in at least the last 15 years. And I'm counting real world politicians as well. Like
yeah,
I wish we had our own Mon Mothma, honestly.
yeah. It was so nuts that yeah, they did all this tension up to, a congressperson making a speech in the Senate. But, it did make me remember, sorry to go there, but Kamala Harris had a great speech, several great speeches. People did not care enough.
Right. I mean, if only
And
people could be roused as they were by Mon
yeah.
Mothma.
And then Obama was also a great orator. We're not going to go fully into this except to mention, of course, that Trump speaks like an idiot and always has. So the contrast is very extreme because he speaks like a complete moron always. And Kamala Harris had some very good speeches.
They should just make Emperor Palpatine go up and like ramble
Yeah,
on,
it's
about how
Orvin.
big his shuttle is or
Yeah,
something.
look at my hat today. Whoa. Anyway, not to go there because it's good that they haven't gone there because
Yeah,
that would make it too
too obvious.
too obvious, too agitprop, and too specific. Again, because they're dealing with very expansive problems in Andor. Again, he didn't really write it yesterday.
No, right.
Let's
The
put that
time machine
aside.
was that did not
Let's put
happen.
that aside. All these things have been building for a long time ago. Galaxy far, far away. Way before Trump, way before any of this shit.
Right.
Um,
Well, I mean, because it's about empire. It's about imperialism. It's
yes,
about
yes. There's
like these
been
things.
more
Yeah,
than one
predate.
empire in history. Right?
Well, and we'll
Right.
get to this when we get to our basketball conversation, I think.
Right.
But like, I think that's a remnant of like just the way generations and social media is. People don't, again, going back to what do you remember 20 years ago? People do not remember a time before they existed.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
history, they do not learn lessons from history because they don't think history
Yeah.
matters because everyone's the main character of their own story. So anything before I was born matters not.
Sure,
Or
which
not
is
even before I was born, before I'm aware of the world, nothing matters.
right. And movements are about sparking people to a higher consciousness. Like, can you believe that your work will matter after you died? Can you believe that people before you who you've never met died for something? These are important
Right.
things. And again, but back to episode 9 because like the shit it gets crazy in that episode. Especially towards the end, she's giving her speech. Like, by the way, really liked Benjamin Bratt as
Yeah.
the Organa again. Really, a big dialogue moment they have discussing the exact timing of when they're gonna break from the
Yeah.
um from the shenanigans in the Senate. Um, but okay, like it gets back to Andor and the really hard choices he makes. There's two things I want to point out. Like one is, in Rogue One, he has a line which is seems like a throwaway, like I've done terrible things for the Empire, but we don't really believe it because it's Star Wars. Now we actually get to see, oh, you've done terrible. Sorry, for the Rebellion, you've done terrible things for Rebellion.
Right, right, right.
Fucking that driver, just fucking Han shot first. That dude just fucking cold killed him with no, no, for no reason.
And
I mean,
and
for a
kind of like
reason, but like as an
right.
assassin does.
And I wonder too, because like to me, I felt like they were hinting at the fact that her driver was maybe having a change of heart,
They were.
right?
He might. Yep. We'll never know
Yeah,
because
because he got murked in the middle of the
because Andor
in the
had to
middle of Capitol
take
Hill.
him out in the name of his mission. That's horrible, but
Right,
necessary,
because
arguably.
in lesser hands, like it would have been the driver says, "I'll get you out of here." You know what I mean?
That's
That's
what
what it looked like. Because
that
when
is where I thought it was going. Yeah,
yeah,
because he heard the speech, and maybe a speech can change
right,
minds,
right,
or
right, right,
can
right.
they? Yeah, so that one's hard. So even harder, yeah. And and by the way, I really like the way in the decompressing scene in their dark apartment, he's just like drinking a lot of water, like or a lot of like space Gatorade or whatever. It's just very like I just had a day, man.
Pretty sure that was space coffee, to be honest.
Oh, I thought it was water. I don't
I
know,
mean, it
but
could have been,
I'm
could
drinking
have
both water and coffee at the moment. Maybe it's good.
been.
Um, but then very last beat of the story, of episode 9, spoilers, 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 is the sad thing where Bix leaves.
Yeah,
And to me, that also addresses the kind of a very fundamental superhero problem, the secret identity problem. She makes this huge sacrifice because she can't be the loved one who will be in danger when
right,
Andor
right.
has to go there. That was that your reading as
Oh,
well?
absolutely.
Yeah,
And Tony Gilroy, being the brilliant writer that he is, added an extra layer of tragedy to the whole thing because she says, "When this is over, I'll come find you."
right,
And we know what happens to Cassian.
right,
He does not make it past Scarif,
right,
and she'll never find him. But
right,
there's this hopeful, like, I'm leaving you now because this is what you need to do,
right,
but I'll come find you when it's done. And
right.
that that will never happen.
Will never happen. And which leads me to question like a lot of the discourse or whatever was like, oh, Bix is probably going to get killed in the closing part of this
Right.
season. But now I wonder, is it not even that, but it's just that we know that Andor will eventually die, so
Right, right.
that thing will never happen.
So you don't have to fridge Bix because
You
you've already fridged Andor for her. And
right,
now I want to see the Bix adventures post Rogue One. That's what I
right,
want.
and that would be cool because you've already subjected Bix to a lot of fridging, like active, like
Right.
it
Yeah.
would be like
I
one,
mean,
two, three
she gets a
strategies.
happy ending. Let's give her the happy ending
Let
because goddamn.
we can it's something to hope for. And again, rebellions are built on hope.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh,
I don't know.
can
We'll
I
see.
rant? Let me just do one quick rant about Bix
Okay.
because again, I need to just get off the fucking internet because
Yeah.
what I've seen is that people there's a lot of apparently there are a lot of like Cassian Jyn Erso shippers on the internet
Yep.
and like they've hated Bix ever since they introduced her in the
Oh
show because
God.
it takes away from I don't even remember what the portmanteau is for Andor and
Hmm.
Erso. But and I'm just like God I modern fandom is exhausting. It's not even just like the continuity stuff, right? It's like this kind of stuff where it's like,
Yeah.
you stand certain pairings and
Yeah.
so, like it's such brilliant storytelling that you're reducing down to like, oh, my ship wins. It's just
Yeah, that
wild.
is weird. I didn't realize that the shipping community was so dedicated to conventional monogamy either. Jesus Christ. Can't a guy have two relationships in a lifetime?
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
whole bunch of like breaking down just how they hug when Scarif blows to shit, and it's like, see, this is true
Yeah,
love.
that is true love. But again, we don't know what happens with Bix. These
Yeah,
questions,
right, right.
we'll revisit this question just next week, I guess. Um, but yeah, but the point is it's super sad.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it gets to, that thing. Peter Parker, why does he keep his identity secret? Because of Aunt May. Why do all the why do vigilantes not be vigilantes? Not because they're afraid of what's going to happen to them, because the Kingpin is going to find their people and fucking kill them.
Right.
So how do you have the freedom to do extraordinarily rebellious things? You would have to have no connections, and that's sad, right? But
And I mean, and that's how the end. Well, I guess that wasn't the very end. The very end is we do get Andor loses one companion, and gains another.
right.
Like in the chaos of the Gorman massacre,
Right.
he steals the parts of one of the assassin droids that tries to kill him,
Yeah.
and they bring him back to Yavin and boot him back up, very Frankenstein style.
Yeah, very Frankenstein-y.
And it's our old friend Alan Tudyk doing K2SO. We now see the actual origin of K2SO,
Yeah.
and you know, like that's how it ends. It's like, okay, one thing I appreciate is like the show's not fan servicey. That's probably the fan serviest thing they've done
Yes,
in the
yes.
9 episodes so far.
Yes, it's keeping us in in the world, and it was a really nice beat to end this arc on. I really liked it. It's like he sort of it's very sad. He's on the landing strip, and then he essentially like gets a therapy dog, a therapy droid, or something, a new companion to get through this period, right? And I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
we'll see
yeah.
that in the next batch of episodes. And it was nice because God, those battle droids were so fucking scary. It was very cathartic to like see, oh, okay, just he's gonna be a nice one. He's not gonna be like massacring people.
Right,
God.
right, right, right.
Um,
Yeah, and then the next batch, as you mentioned, it takes you right. Allegedly, it's supposed to take you right up to the opening of Rogue One. So
okay, good. Because I do have questions about that opening of Rogue One, and maybe they'll all fit together as a piece. Yeah, um, yeah, really, really powerful that Andor.
and it's interesting too because next year is the 10th anniversary of Rogue One, and I've heard rumblings
Hmm.
of Lucasfilm is going to edit together. I don't know if they're going to do like both seasons or maybe one for each season, but like essentially like a movie length version of Andor to air in theaters to celebrate Rogue One.
Oh, that's clever. Wow, so Star Wars Camp is really into this re-releasing their movies in theaters thing, huh?
But I'm just
Which is
curious, like
good, good
how they'll
strategy.
cut it to be like, because the thing about Andor, I think you alleged to it earlier, like it's given the space to breathe, it's given the space to expand on,
Mm,
character moments and things
yeah.
that I wonder what it would feel like to be, and maybe if they get Tony to do it, he'll figure it out. But like, I'm just curious how you would condense all of this dense storytelling into a 2.5 hour
Yeah.
prequel to Rogue One.
Yeah, that is an editing challenge that I will not I don't know. We'd have to see how this season plays out to see if
Right, right.
that even feels possible. Um,
I mean, if they pull it off, you may the true Star Wars trilogy might be Andor, Rogue One, New Hope.
whoa, renumbering. Nice.
That's the true trilogy.
Yep, 3.1, 3.24. I don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, no, it is interesting for thinking about how Rogue One will rise to the level of being as important as 4, 5, 6, but for completely different reasons. I don't know. That's a bit of a brain knot.
Yeah. Speaking of theaters, we won't get a chance to talk about it on this episode, but maybe we'll swing back to it next week. On Wednesday, DC is releasing the full trailer for Superman. I'm
Oh,
not sure. I'm actually of two minds about it. I don't know if I want to watch the full trailer. I kind of feel like I've seen enough, and I'd rather just go into the movie completely like,
mm,
unspoiled or untarnished or whatever.
mm-hmm.
But I have no willpower. I'll probably watch the trailer on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's the internet.
Uh,
It's there. What are you gonna do? Think
yeah,
about things from 10 years ago and try to remember
exactly.
them?
Well, what Pearl Jam song will be in Superman? Well, it is James Gunn. He might put a Pearl Jam. So he's
Yeah,
known
he
for needle drops.
he is good at soundtracking. Yeah.
And then speaking of Superman, your boy Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics is taking on the moniker of Superman. Ironically, he's not Shaquille O'Neal, nor is he Dwight Howard, but he is taking on the Superman name primarily because he's in this cross promotion with the movie
Mm-hmm.
for he's got a pair of Jordans that are Superman specific, and it led you to this like rabbit hole of superstar NBA players and their superhero counterparts.
Right. Okay. So we're going to talk about sports ball now. But
Fair warning.
Jason Tatum started cross-promoting Superman the movie, and I thought this was very interesting. Tell me if you agree or not, because Jason Tatum, as far as my research into Celtics fandom is, doesn't have like a strong go-to nickname. And also his personality is sort of like he's sort of like the low-key megastar, right? S-
Yeah, I mean, he's the one NBA superstar that has like absolutely no charisma. Like nobody likes him. Even
I,
Celtics fans, I don't think like Jason Tatum, to be honest.
no, they some do. I mean, he's not he's not a huge personality. He's not bombastic, but by the stats, he's one of the top 5 players
Yeah,
in the league.
stats wise, I
He's
just
won a championship.
there's
He's
something cringe about him. I don't know what it is. I think the new generation just they like to clown him because everything he does apparently, like the way he celebrates, is corny. And he like when they won the championship, he kind of like tried to recreate the iconic Kobe with the leather jacket photo in the locker
okay.
room.
Yeah.
Apparently, he did like a Kawhi Leonard celly the other day after he hit like a three, and it's like that's what people.
Hmm.
Which is interesting because I think leading into the Superman movie, you have a lot of people who are like, Superman's a corny character, and he's like maybe we should lean into the fact that Jason Tatum is this like kind of he's got all the stats. He's the most powerful NBA player, but everyone thinks he's corny and he's not like worthy of adulation like everybody else.
Right,
Who's
which is
edgier?
right. What he's not that edgy, which is why I think he's leaning into the Clark Kent thing, which they do in the ad. He's wearing the glasses, whatever. They're a line of glasses that he sells, I think, and are branded. But whatever. He's going. He's. I think he was shaping the image that I am the mild-mannered guy, but on the court, I'm freaking Superman.
Right, right.
And then, so they're playing the Knicks, and then they're losing to the Knicks, weirdly. In the end of in the second game, he at the second. Okay, they lost the second game, but in the second to last play, he does this just very Superman thing. Like they're down, they need a bucket. He just starts from one end of the court, goes in a straight line past everyone, and flies up and dunks it. And he just when it was televised at the time, it was a wide shot. It was incredible. It was how Superman would play basketball.
Right,
I
right.
was like, great, that's fulfilling a nerd theory. So anyway, so that's one aspect of it, and the larger thesis is that there's a lot of superhero illusions going on in the playoffs these days. Um,
Actually, what kicked it off for you was not even Superman. It was your boy Jimmy Butler calling
right,
Steph Curry Batman.
right, and so yeah, uh, yeah. So Jimmy Butler, you've been following the Jimmy Butler thing
I love Jimmy
this
Butler.
season, right? Okay, not everyone has, but he's
Yeah.
had a bunch of drama.
It's not just this season. Jimmy Butler brings the drama. That's
He,
his
yeah,
that's his superpower. That the playoffs and playoff Jimmy and drama are synonymous.
yeah. So he's all this crazy stuff, and he joined the Warriors mid-season, and now he's trying to like start this thing of Steph Curry being Batman. And if you know, I'm primarily a Warriors fan. You know, Steph Curry's had various nicknames, Chef, Splash Brothers, whatever. He's never really been Batman before, so it's kind of audacious in Jimmy's style to be like, "Oh, I'm gonna just start a new nickname for Steph. I just arrived at this team 3 minutes ago, but now I'm gonna try to start a thing." And he's definitely trying to start a thing because they keep saying it, and it keeps memeing. Steph Curry's Batman. I'm Robin, and um,
Yeah, Steph Curry as Batman doesn't quite fit. Steph Curry is the complete opposite of the dark, brooding NBA
yeah,
superstar.
it doesn't quite scan, which leads to the question of how much of a Batman fan Jimmy Butler is. You know, he may be a casual fan because also he's positioning himself as Robin, which is like, you know, my Celtics fan friend was pointing out, you know, like he really wants to be Nightwing, right?
Mm,
Because for those who don't know, like Robin eventually joins the Teen Titans and takes a more adult moniker as Nightwing. And Nightwing is in the DC universe like he's the babe version of Robin. Like he gets all the
right, right.
action and like he has a hot butt and stuff like that. Now, I don't know if Jimmy Butler knows who Nightwing is, and there's
No.
no problem if he does, but you don't think it's so. Okay, so
I think the Dick Grayson comparison actually tracks because after he's Nightwing, Dick Grayson also becomes Batman, and Steph Curry went down with a hamstring injury a couple games ago, and
ooh, yeah,
Jimmy Butler has had to be the main guy. He playoff Jimmy. I mean, that's his real nickname. Let's be honest. Playoff
yeah,
Jimmy. Jimmy G Buckets the third is his true name
yeah.
because Jimmy gets buckets. But he's had to be the main guy ever since Steph went down, which is when Bruce got his back broken, Dick had to take over and be Batman. Or
It
actually, when he
is
got his back broken, it was when Azrael. I got the wrong Batman.
right,
Sorry. I
right.
apologize. It
But
was Batman R.I.P.
yeah,
Where
Buddy Hill is Ezreal. Yeah, but yeah, okay. Um, that was yeah, and it's
but yeah, Dick being Batman, he's got to step into the role here.
right. And we haven't finished the other part, which is that they're facing Ant-Man, and Ant-Man is currently winning. Now,
Right.
Anthony Edwards, they're playing the Minnesota Timberwolves, and their star, Anthony Edwards, his nickname is Ant-Man, which is there's a sweet story about that behind it. It's not related to the Marvel character. He got that nickname as a kid because like his dad like gave him the nickname Ant because of his siblings as similar names or something like that. But anyway, the internet being what it is, he's known as Ant-Man. So we have the Marvel character versus, according to Jimmy's formulation, the DC characters. And to bring it up to exactly today, Ant-Man's winning because Robin did all he could in that last game. He did all he could, and they still lost.
Right.
So just in a sports context, as a Warriors fan, you're going, well, that was probably the best game we could play. I don't know if we have another trick. This is like the last stand of the DC characters versus the Marvel
The DC
characters.
versus the
I
MCU.
don't know if Falcon's gonna show up to save Jimmy. I don't know who can show up to
Wrong,
save.
wrong. That's a crossover.
Yes, I crossed it over a couple of
Well,
ways.
and
I
I
know,
mean,
but
is Steph going to get magical healing and come back? You know, because I think with a hamstring injury,
yeah,
it's at least 10 days, and
yeah.
there's not 10 days left in the series. So.
Yeah. Sorry, this is going to drive your continuity timeline thing crazy. I'm sorry, but yeah, the crossover is not all one to one. But the point is, the players are really leaning into it because the other day, Randall of the Timberwolves, like, yeah, Ant-Man came back from an injury mid-game, and he was like, "Oh, that dude, he's like Iron Man. He's like Wolverine." All Marvel characters like that. So whether he's
Well,
Ant-Man, Iron Man, or Wolverine,
they are the
the
Timberwolves, even though Wolverine and a Timberwolf are not the same thing.
Timber Wolverines. That's
The
good.
Timberwolverines. Well, I mean, and to answer your question about like, I don't think Jimmy knows anything about Batman lore. It's probably true, but this is a plague that has plagued sports writers time immemorial, ever since they started doing superhero
Hmm.
comparisons. I wrote a piece on the Nerds of Color many years ago where they used to call Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, Robin to Michael Jordan's Batman,
Right.
and I used to like brisket that comparison because, uh, again, the personalities don't fit. Batman and Michael Jordan were not like personality wise the same. In the sense that like Batman is like in the shadows and Superman is like in the spotlight. That's how I
Yeah.
saw the Michael Jordan Scottie Pippen relationship. Not I am the apprentice to the man. It's basically shorthand for like sidekick and superstar.
Right.
It's got nothing to do with actual Batman and Robin. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Yeah. So in your formulation, a better way of saying it was Superman and Batman were on
Right,
those iconic
right,
Bulls
right,
teams.
right,
Okay.
right. They were world's finest, not a
The
dynamic duo.
world's right. The world's finest. And right. And yes, and Batman and Robin is shorthand for a duo, but over time we now know that Batman and Superman team up all the time.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, apparently, like now, people think of Batman and Superman as always fighting because of Zack Snyder. I guess that's like people don't think of them teaming up anymore. It's all Batman v
Right,
Superman
right.
these days, I guess. But yeah.
Which right, but which leads us to the next thing. Oh God, where are we? Okay, well, so what series do we have to do?
Well,
Let's
let's go with the Batman villain,
okay, yeah. So
the other actual
over in
NBA nickname.
right over in the other part of the Western Conference, we've got the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Denver Nuggets, and the Denver Nuggets' best player is maybe the best player in the universe right now. And for some reason, he's nicknamed the Joker because his name is Nikola
Jokic.
Jokic. And you've expressed before how you think that's a silly nickname, and I agree.
Yeah, it's a
It's
lazy nickname. It's like
it,
his last name is kind of like Joker, and people don't know how to spell. I mean, the
yeah,
the only like thing that I could think of that he's very Joker-ish is that there's nothing Jokerish about him. Like he's
No.
not chaotic. He's not like he's barely funny. Like
He's more like Solomon Grundy if he's
he
the
looks like Solomon
Batman villain. Yeah, but the point.
and he
But
could
again,
give a shit. That's the thing. What's maddening about Nikola Jokic is that he could give a shit about basketball. He's just like preternaturally good at it. You know what I mean? Like he's the type of guy that's like when he's done off the court, he's like, I just want to go home, drink a beer, and like go to bed.
I don't
Like
know
I want to
about
go hang out with my
that.
horses in the off season. I don't want to go to this fucking parade.
He does love his horses. I mean, I don't know about it. I think he just like Tatum. He expresses his passion in a little bit more low key way than people are used to. Not the Jimmy Butler way.
Right.
Not the Michael Jordan way. Definitely.
Oh,
Um,
can I just rewind the other thing
Yeah.
about the Ant-Man versus Batman thing
Sure.
in the Warriors Wolves is that I have my running theory is that they're both the sons of Michael Jordan. Like either like, spiritually or potentially genetically. Who
There's
knows?
kind of a
Who knows?
meme to that effect, right?
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
yeah.
They both have the spirit of Michael Jordan,
Butler and Anthony Edwards is who you're talking
and
about.
Edwards, right? Not Steph Curry, Butler and Edwards. I guess Robin versus Ant-Man. They're also both the sons. But Sons of Batman is also like
Also a thing.
a thing in the DC universe. So I just wanted to put that out there because like there have been instances where Anthony Edwards and Jimmy Butler have played in the playoffs like their dad. And
Yeah.
so, like
Yeah,
father,
their spiritual basketball dad. Yeah, and that's
or
interesting
maybe
thing.
genetic DNA dad. Who knows? I don't know how much Michael got around in the 90s.
I don't want to go there at all. Um,
He's going to be on the NBA and on NBC broadcast as like a commentator.
wow,
Michael Jordan.
that's crazy.
They're really getting me to fucking subscribe to Peacock. I really did not want to, and now I'm gonna have to.
That's wild. That's like Brady doing the
Mhm.
NFL broadcast guy. That's a bit much. But you'll get to whatever don't you want to see Michael Jordan again? Because you're one of these Chicago fans who
am.
are living in this golden period forever. And I was like,
It's forever 1998.
I was teasing you about it before, but it's sort of like the
Sad.
Gen X nostalgic fandoms too.
It's like my Pearl Jam thing. It's like he still matters 30 years after he stopped mattering.
It's not just you, but every Chicago fan I know rightly holds that period with reverence, but a
Right.
very special kind of picky reverence because the team has existed since Jordan stopped playing. And
Well, I told you this over text. There was the D Rose era where it was like, okay, there's
Yeah.
someone else who's wearing a Bulls uniform.
yeah,
It's not Michael Jordan.
even their
But
team.
that era was very like Gorman, it burned brightly and shortly
And
and was
shortly.
gone.
Yeah,
And we never even got past like the Eastern semifinals.
I'm just saying it would be
Zero.
different if the Bulls have been consistently always horrible in the last 20 years. But like even like their team this year was fun. Like maybe not real
fun-ish.
real good, but like they got to the play-in and like they have some fun players.
The last 3 years, anyway, we're not.
Okay, sorry,
ranting
I'm
about the
just trying to tease out some
Yeah.
Chicago Hulk rage because I know you take this very seriously. But anyway, so
Yeah,
if-
Jokic, Joker, bad nickname for sure.
yes, but he leans into it because the other day he came to the stadium, he came to the game dressed up as a Joker just because he had managed to find a purple suit that was like designed for an elephant or it was just like a ridiculously large purple suit. And yeah, so if by some miracle the Warriors get through this series, which it's not looking great, but if by some miracle the Warriors get through this series, by Jimmy's formulation again, we'd have Batman versus the Joker. Sorry, if also the Nuggets get through their series with the Thunder, who
right,
don't
which
have
is not which is not guaranteed.
No, that's probably the most competitive series actually currently going because
It's the only one that's tied right now.
right, and they've all been really good games, and it's a very interesting mix of styles. Jokic is overpowering, and Shea SGA is just fucking fast, and it's a great series to watch. We don't have a really good nickname for the Thunder.
Yeah, I
But,
mean, SGA doesn't have a superhero like equivalent. I will say, like, I mean, it's lazy, but so is Joker as a nickname.
Yeah.
They're the Thunder. They're the team of Thor, right? Like, it has to be.
Right. So if the other thing happens, it could be Thor versus Ant-Man.
Right, exactly. Or they could
Which
be the
would be-
Thunderbolts, maybe. Like, that's possible.
Oh, right. We forgot that movie came out because that's not really the
Well, because
title
they're
of the
the
movie.
new Avengers. They're not
Right.
even the
It
Thunderbolts.
wasn't really the title of the movie. Yeah, no, I think also, SGA is Canadian, so I think of Alpha Flight.
Yeah.
But
Maybe
also
he's Wolverine.
maybe he's Wolverine. That would explain a lot.
Well, his superpower is
never
foul
gets.
baiting. So
I wouldn't say his. I'd say his superpower is never getting hurt, which is a Wolverine thing.
yeah.
His health is very consistent, and also he's in the ad promoting the current Jurassic Park movies. This is not all about superheroes. He could also be a dinosaur. Anyway,
Well, if he played for the Raptors, I mean, that would be
right. But the Raptors, no, okay, we won't talk
yeah.
about the Raptors.
We don't need to go there.
Yeah. So,
Well, and that brings us to the other playoff matchup where the superhero connection is more tenuous in the Cavs Pacers.
okay, right. So back over to the Eastern Conference. The other series going is Cleveland Cavaliers and Indiana Pacers.
That's going sideways for the number one seed.
That's going so sideways because the Cavs have been dominating everyone this year, and now they're as of today they're down 3-1, aren't
Yep.
they? Yeah, and they got destroyed, and they have Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Donovan Mitchell. His nickname is Spider-Man. I don't know why.
It does
Do you
have
know
to
the
do with
origin?
Spider-Man. I mean, his more standard nickname is just Spider or Spider, but looking it up on the always correct internet, it does say that originated out of Spider-Man, and he's Spider-Man like player. He's very dynamic, very acrobatic, and has been dominating people up till now. So he's playing the Indiana Pacers team, which I like fine, but we don't have a great superhero analogy for them either.
They're also obnoxious. Like their
Why?
superstars are obnoxious.
Why are the Pacers obnoxious?
Tyrese Halliburton is
Is this a
obnoxious. He just like there's
you
something
think?
about him that's annoying.
Yeah, think. Is this a Bulls fan thing,
It
or
might
is
be a
this
Bulls
like?
thing. This might be a Bulls thing.
I don't know. I really like the Pacers. Halliburton's not my favorite. I like the Turner and Siakam a lot.
Yeah. Obi
Um,
Toppin, like
Obi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like I don't know. That's not a superhero.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Obi Toppin is my favorite player on the Pacers. That's what it is. Obi.
It's the closest thing to like at least nerdom we could get is, and he's not
Obi.
that important to the Pacers either though.
Well, he's comes off the bench, but sometimes he has a big game. The other day they're chanting his name, Obi-Wan, Obi Toppin. Anyway, it,
yeah.
but worse. He's like I think he's their most important sixth guy. Um, but yeah, so it does break down because sorry to circle it all back. If we were rooting for the superhero analogies, as opposed to Knicks versus Pacers, which has its own historical
Right.
importance. But okay, if we're rooting for superhero analogies, we'd get the Cavaliers to win with Spider-Man, and then they'd face the. We also thought the Celtics were gonna run away with this series, but they are not.
Yeah.
At one point, the Celtics again being kind of bereft of clearly defined nicknames, someone suggested that they would be the Green Goblins. Because
Yeah, they're green and they're a bunch of goblins. I
yeah,
get it.
yeah. So in that formulation, if the
Especially
Cavs,
what's
Cavs
his
and
name, Kevin
Celtics
Pritchard?
advance, yeah, they could be. It would be Spider-Man versus Green Goblin / Superman.
Right.
Okay, so obviously the Celtics are confused on the nicknaming. I'm not trying to drive you crazy here, but there's different scenarios, and you get shoes either way. However this shakes out, you do get branded shoes.
Yeah.
With the Superman,
The Superman logo on it. I mean, again, as a Bulls fan, all four teams coming out of the East can all suck a dick. I don't care about any of them. Like the Cavs,
Fine.
the Pacers, the Knicks, especially. Like I hate those teams, whatever season it is. And then the Celtics here, I figured out what it is I don't like about the Celtics this year. As
Okay.
dominant as they've been, as good as they've been over the last several years, even when they won the title a couple years ago.
Okay.
Or was it last year? Whenever they won the title. Doesn't matter.
It was last year.
I hate the way they play.
Mm-hmm.
It's just chucking up threes.
The threes
without any kind of like when Golden State does it, it's actually like entertaining to watch because they play in a similar fashion in the sense that they prioritize the three.
Yeah,
but they're doing it in a lot of like down screens for Steph, and then he comes off, and then blah 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 blah. Right, like it's actually like movement basketball.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like whenever I watch the Celtics, it's just like they're just passing it around the perimeter, and then someone eventually jacks up a three. And that's why they were losing, because like when the three ball is falling, they'll win.
Sure.
but when they're not hitting, it's impossible to watch. They're just jacking up 50,000 threes,
Yeah, I get
and
it.
that's why I
Yeah.
don't like the Celtics.
No, I get it, and that's something many people have said, and that's the narrative that came out after they surprisingly lost those two Knicks games. A lot of the sports people were like, "Yeah, they
Mm,
play with kind of arrogance," and that the arrogant belief that we're just statistically going to hit these threes eventually, so we're just going
eventually.
to keep doing that. Like we could complicate the notion of that whether they're taking like optimal shots or whether they're taking kind of like hero ball shots. I don't know. The point is they lost those two games. That was the
Mm.
result. And
And the
feel
reason they won is that those shots started to fall, and so they won.
right, right, and I feel ya. It is kind of annoying to watch either way.
Yeah.
Are you rooting for anything in these playoffs as a Bulls
As
fan?
an I'm rooting for the
Sup-
lottery tonight that we get at
okay,
least a top 3 pick. That would be nice.
okay.
But the other thing, yeah, I mean the Timberwolves Warriors series is the only one I care about because again,
Hmm.
I like watching Anthony Edwards go off against Jimmy Butler. Like,
Yeah.
oh, and
It,
one other just for what it's worth, comic book superhero connection to Jimmy Butler is I once met him at the airport in San Diego, leaving San Diego Comic Con one year.
no way.
Yeah, just randomly. He
What
was
was
in
he
the San Diego airport.
doing in San Diego? They don't have an NBA team there
No, he was
anymore.
like working out because it's July, so he was it wasn't
Oh,
season, so he was like apparently in San Diego to work out, and he was flying home, and I was leaving Comic Con, and I was in the airport, and I saw him like sitting by himself,
oh, that's
like he was still with the Bulls at the time,
oh, okay.
and or maybe he had left the Bulls and wait 2016. What team was
I
he
don't
with?
know. He's been on like eight
Doesn't-
different teams.
yeah,
I don't
doesn't
know.
matter. Maybe he had just left the Bulls. Whatever. I still love the guy, and he
Yeah.
was just there, and I was like, "Oh my God, Jimmy Butler, can we take a picture?" And he was like, "If you walk," and we were just walking down
Mm.
the airport, and I snapped a selfie, and I got my selfie with Jimmy G buckets. It was
Oh
really cool.
man, that's awesome. Yeah. So he seemed like a nice dude. He's not like
And
insane. Like I don't know.
I mean, he agreed. He could have just said "fuck you" and
Yeah,
kept
yeah.
walking, but he
No,
agreed.
no, you're right. The emotional content of the series between the Warriors and Timberwolves is the best right now.
Yeah,
As you're saying, they both play in the as sort of spiritual successors to the Jordan mentality.
yeah,
And although
yeah,
Anthony Edwards is like a little more like happy-go-lucky, you know what I mean?
yeah,
He,
yeah,
he to me, I think like he's a fourth quarter player. He doesn't get real intense until the fourth quarter, and sometimes he doesn't get it going at all. So, but the Timberwolves definitely have like a few more guys. Timberwolves definitely have like a few more guys than the Warriors right now, and it may just come down to that because Steph is hurt.
yeah.
Um,
And them upsetting the Lakers was the best. Like that
that
was
was
awesome.
really good.
And then like social media had like the Timberwolves social media had this great post right after the series was over because there's a Netflix documentary about like the modern NBA. I guess it's about the Olympic team.
Oh yeah,
And there
okay.
was like a clip of LeBron saying like I don't know who's next in line. Like whoever's next in line's got to go past me or whatever. And this is from the documentary. It cuts to Anthony Edwards in his Lamborghini, like as
Hmm.
he's the next guy.
Hmm.
And the
Hmm.
Wolves like clipped that and posted it on social media like right after they eliminated the Lakers. And I was like, that's king shit right there.
Yeah, no, it is king shit because you beat LeBron's team, right?
Right.
And among other things, but also, I mean, they have a good team. Like it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
just Anthony Edwards and nobody. Um,
Yeah, so like actually so I'm rooting for whoever emerges from that series. That's who
okay,
I want to win the title.
okay,
Because I don't again the East can all go to hell. I don't want anyone from the East to win anything.
yeah. Someone has to by the rules of the playoffs, but like,
No, they don't have to win. No, I'm saying
which one would
any
annoy you
team
the least
if they
on
get
the
to the
East?
finals.
On the East, which one would annoy you the
Oh
least?
God, no, they
The
all annoy me.
Pacers, Cavaliers,
I hate them all.
Knicks, or Celtics?
Yep. I mean, you know what? My hate for LeBron probably outweighs my hate for the Cavs themselves.
Okay.
It would be nice to see the Cavs get to the finals,
I
and
was rooting for that as well.
so like, but that's not going
Sorry,
to happen
Celtics
because
fans.
they're not going to get to
But
the
now they're
finals.
not because Indiana is playing out of its mind.
But yeah, so I don't really want
Maybe they're the Sinister Six. No.
maybe.
Maybe they're Mephisto because they're going to kill Spider-Man. I don't know.
There you go.
Now I'm really reaching.
Well, I did find some like obscure Marvel character named Pacer. I don't know anything about
Yeah.
their character. I don't think it fits anything that the team does, but
Yeah, no, I don't. I think that was one of those like UK knockoff characters that was like in the Rob Liefeld era of like X-Force knockoffs or something. Because ironically, it's a character named Pacer who had no feet. But that's a whole other that's a whole other thing. Like the Pacers. Okay, I like the Cavaliers more. Whatever. Mm,
yeah, right. To me, it doesn't matter who emerges from the East. I want the
okay.
winner of Timberwolves Warriors to go all the way.
Okay. Yeah, and I also do kind of root for Denver because I like Denver. Sorry, OKC, I know you're like a really good team, but I like Jokic slash the Joker,
Yeah.
and I still hold out a little hope for this Denver Warriors scenario, but the Joker Ant-Man scenario would not be bad. I wouldn't hate it.
I mean, my thing with OKC, this has been true ever since the franchise came about, is that I will never forgive them for leaving Seattle. So
Right.
I don't want Oklahoma City to win anything because they already claim. I mean, they still claim Seattle's titles as their own, right? So like, uh,
Yeah. Uh,
I think if Seattle gets an expansion team, they're going to get their history back, which is a funny thing that sports teams do, where they like leave and then they retain like their records from wherever
yeah.
city they left, and it's like
Speaking of retconning,
you're exactly yeah, like I'm surprised no one in Minnesota like pointed out the fact that like at least 4 or 5 of the Lakers championships were from Minneapolis, and they should just give those
absolutely.
back.
They used to be the Lakers.
That
There's
should be.
no
There's no
there,
lakes in LA.
there's no lakes in Los Angeles.
I mean, that's what they should have done. Is like if we beat you guys in the first round, you have to give us our titles back from like the 40s.
Yeah. Uh,
So yeah,
uh,
sports and comics,
sports.
we
Yeah.
were able to bring the two worlds together.
Yeah. A little shout out also I'll mention the WNBA is getting an expansion team in the Bay
Yeah,
Area. And
Asian American superstar
it,
next in line, Natalie Chen.
Natalie Nakasi is the coach. Caitlin Chen is the
Caitlin
guard.
Chen, sorry.
You combine them
I
together
combined the
into
two
a
Asians.
weird that happens. You did like a Psylocke like
Well, they were both Asian. I didn't put
version,
him in a
right?
British woman's body.
Right. But anyway, but they're called the Valkyries. The
Yeah.
Golden State Valkyries had their first preseason game ever, and they're gonna be freaking awesome. And yes, Natalie Nakase, Japanese American coach, and they drafted Caitlin Shen, a guard out of UConn, who is not Paige Beckers. But
You wanted Paige Beckers, but they got her teammate, so close enough.
right,
They got
because
the
it's
Asian one,
they
so
could
like
have,
even
yeah,
better.
I love that, and there was all this stuff about Paige Beckers, and obviously she went to the Wings, but like if but coming out of UConn is good because if you're coming out of the team, like Paige Beckers wasn't the only person on that
Right.
team. She's
UConn's
part of
always
the
good
team.
players.
Yeah, whoever's on that UConn women's team is like has like knows how to win. You know what I
So can I
mean?
ask why they chose to go with Golden State as the city? Because like I get the Warriors were Golden State because they come from like the freewheeling ABA where like shit didn't matter. So they called themselves the Golden State Warriors rather than like the Oakland Warriors or the San Francisco Warriors. But like the Valkyries didn't have to go with Golden State as their city. They could have been like the Bay Area Valkyries or the San Francisco Valkyrie. Why did they go
Yeah.
with Golden State? Are they
No,
owned by the same? Like, because some WNBA teams are owned by their male counterparts, but that's not the case everywhere.
I think there's a lot of yeah, I think the ownership group like sort of owns both of them, where I think there's a
Mm,
lot of anyway relationships there. Like they do seem like they're merged as part of a two-pronged franchise right now. And
mhm.
you bring up a couple things. I don't know that exact history. The Warriors have different names. They were like the San Francisco Warriors for a
Right, right.
period. They settled in Golden State at some point. Um, I don't know all that history, but I think the main answer is that the Golden State is like a national thing now. Golden State is like the Empire. Sorry. But you know what I mean? As a fan, I worked through this interesting thing was you know this as a Chicago Bulls fan, there was a period when Chicago Bulls were the top dogs of the whole sports universe,
Right,
basically.
right, right.
And you go for it as a fan, you go through that process of rooting for your team to be like, oh, fucking, we're the top dogs now. Everyone's afraid of us. And I didn't even notice this, but the Warriors are having that moment. Kind of, the Warriors are a subject of national
Well,
discourse
I mean, they were the team
because
of
they
the
won.
2010s
Yeah, they
because
won
yeah,
4 championships. Stephen Curry is nationally on every
yeah.
commercial. He's not, there are people like in frickin' Springfield nowhere who are Warriors fans. And I didn't even realize that because they're just my team. You know what I mean?
Your home team, right?
Right, but
Well, and again, this
weird.
goes to my like anti-LeBron propaganda because like, you know, during his reign,
yeah.
the best team was actually Golden State.
Well,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, that whole
Yeah,
three
we
coming
really
back
have a
from down
LeBron
1-3. I mean, but that's the thing. Like, if the Warriors had just gone ahead and taken care of that series, we would not have this whole GOAT debate. You know, like the fact that because that's his like trump card. It's like, well, I came back from down 1-3 in the finals. Like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
We beat the 73-9 Warriors. Okay, whatever. Fuck, whatever. But like, y'all, it's, again, as a nostalgic Bulls fan, it was like that was my Sophie's choice because like, had you won the title,
Mm.
then the 2016 Warriors would have been the greatest of all time. So I
Mm.
can still like lord that over
Mm.
you and say like, well,
Yeah,
sure, you lost one less regular season game, but we won the title.
yeah, you can. Yeah. And the anti-LeBron force is very strong in you. I didn't really know that until just now. Okay. Um, yeah. And yeah, so all that just to say, the Warriors are a big deal.
Well, you guys play tonight. When at least
Yeah.
whenever you watch this video, maybe you're watching this video after or listening to this podcast after the Wolves have gone up 3-1, or maybe the
Yeah.
series is tied. But either
Yeah.
way, I'm rooting for Ant-Man and Batman. So
Yeah. But okay, but someone has to win the game. So if you're
oh, you're
if
making me pick. I just want a good series, man.
gun to your head, who wins, Ant-Man or Batman?
I mean, gun to my head, I'm going to pick Minnesota just because, to your point, unless Steph again gets some force healing on his hamstring.
Yeah, yeah.
I
That's their only
can't
chance.
see Buddy healed and what's the pot the white boy's name?
BP,
Yeah.
Podziemski.
I can't see them picking up the load that Steph Curry
Yeah.
leaves behind.
The Wolves have more guys.
Again, never bet against playoff Jimmy though. Playoff Jimmy is I told you
Never.
as soon as you got him on your team, like whatever he's doing right now, wait till he gets to the playoffs because playoff
Yeah.
Jimmy's a different thing.
Yeah, no, it could
He tried
happen.
last night or the other night, so
Yeah, it wasn't quite enough. But again, he did. Some would argue that he got teams to the finals with less of a cast and just like put it on his back, just super Robin or whatever. Nightwing in the Teen Titans, surprising comeback victory, I think is the analogy.
I'm telling you, he might have to put on the cowl in Batman R.I.P.
Yeah, he might have to do that.
Be Batman. I guess that's Hard Knock. It's an extra large episode of Hard Knock Life. Thank you guys for listening. Dominic, what's your socials so people can find you?
I'm Dominic Ma at Dama DOMMAH on the social medias, and also I have a pop music group called 12 Valentines, which you can find on all the streaming places.
Follow the Nerds of Color at the Nerds of Color. Go to hardknockmedia.com for the podcast and subscribe to all the pods in the family, and also visit us at thenerdsofcolor.org. I'm Keith. I'm the real Chow. You can find me on social media. All I'm doing is tweeting about sports anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Awesome.
But maybe a stray Chicago Pope joke here and there. But other than that, until next time.
I have friends everywhere.
Good callback.